Hello, friends, and happy last 10 days of school. That is right. Egnards will be temporarily unemployed in 10 days for the remainder of the summer. And that means that because my body still hates me, I will still wake up at 5:45 every single morning and most likely play SWGOH with a lot of that time because modern gaming just does not hit me the same way that it did as a child. What I want to talk about today is something that I've been seeing a lot lately while I am doing GAC or roster coaching for players, popping into their accounts, trying to build up their efficiency as best as possible with the free time that I do have. And the thing that I want to talk about, because I'm not going to make this a clickbait thing or make you wait until the drop, is a highly inefficient use of their in-game currencies. And I'll show you exactly what that means in just a second. But I want to stress here that while some of you may look at this and say, oh, I'll never do that, believe me, I have seen quite a few rosters over the years that make this mistake. Sometimes these are even just guildmates who have asked me to deploy for them. Sometimes these are friends who I'm just helping them for a day or two, but this is more common of a problem than you realize. So let's get to it. So what we have here is a seemingly normal account, roughly 13.1 million player. They've been playing for a very long time. I've known this person for a very long time, though we've started working together more officially in, only a couple of weeks ago. We can see 13.1 million. We're missing really only a couple of characters because of specific life circumstances. Got a lot of R10s. We clearly spend a little bit of money. I have been tasked with helping them with their mods, which I will say are, they don't look super great, but we're not going to get into that today. One thing that you are going to notice here, and I want you to remember this for later, is that as a 13.1 million account, we are missing quite a few Zetas, even as a spender who does buy those Zeta packs. But the thing that we want to talk about, and again, I want you to keep that in mind, is that when we go to our shipment tabs, I also see something like this, right? We can see in our fleets that we are missing, that we have roughly 977,000 fleet currency. Now, fleet currency is a thing that most players do not neglect. It's very rare that I see a player that isn't Vance neglect their fleet currency. But just to give you an idea, that 977,000 fleet currency is approximately 488 Zeta material, right? 488 Zeta material is 24 Zetas. Okay, so 24 Zetas, and we look and we go back here and we see our characters and we see the Zetas that are missing. That doesn't take care of everything, but this is a pretty decent chunk of this gone. And while we look at characters, like Tusking Chieftain, who maybe aren't necessary, or Greedo, or, Pow, all characters that maybe a player isn't necessarily using often. We also are looking at characters like Jedi Training Rey, like Sorty, who has a Datacron coming up right now, like 3PO and Chewie, like Han Solo, Jedi Knight Luke. These are characters who do become usable and useful to a player, and we're missing all of these Zetas specifically because we just haven't used our fleet currency. Now, unfortunately, this is not something that we can burn very quickly. You can see that I have been making him do some of these refreshes since those 50s and those 100s do end up being fairly cheap for Zeta materials. So at this point, it does make sense, but it is a waste in the sense that they shouldn't have to do this. Now, again, fleet currency is not one that I see people wasting often, but I do still see people wasting their currencies. Looking at our cantina, we have roughly 700,000 material here, and that 700,000 material that we have in our cantina shop equals out to 1,730 instances of shards, or literally 259,000 shard shop currency, right? 259,000 shard shop currency that is kind of locked up in this store. And it's going to take forever, even if I buy every single one of these shards every single time. It is going to take a very long time to recoup all of that currency. We see the same thing here with our squad arena store right now. Prestige is a great option for newer players or mid-game players. I doubt that this player needs the prestige. So when we talk about the 596,000 shard shop current squad arena currency here, we are also talking about 1,490 instances of shards, or 223,000 shard shop currency. So if you're keeping track at home, that is approximately 500,000 shard shop currency that is being left on the table by this player. And I will remind you that this is honestly a fairly common problem that players have. Going over to our Galactic War store, we have over 1 million of the Galactic War currency. That 1.04 million Galactic War currency ends up being 2,600 instances of shards, or 390,000 shard shop currency, right? So in total, we have found right here 873,000 shard shop currency overall. Now, I have done this rounding for this Galactic War Challenge based off of all of the shards, not just off of the ships. Most players are just going to buy the ships every day because those ships are worth 38 shard shop currency per shard versus 15 per shard for the regular characters. And that does equal out to being slightly more. But in this instance, we are not going to see this player being able to burn down that 1 million anytime soon. And it does make sense to be able to just get everything because it is better than nothing. I want you to keep in mind that 870,000 shard shop currency, because we're going to talk about that in a minute. But when we continue on and we look through here, we can look at our Grand Arena store. We have 21,000 championship tokens. That is modding right here, right? None of this stuff is needed for this player. This is all mod material. And this is something that all players need, is being able to produce higher level mods. And that 21,000 is going to take quite a bit of time to burn down, but that is some 6B, 6A mods that this player doesn't have right now, specifically because they didn't go in and accept their tokens or use their tokens. The last one that I want to show you here is that guild events store, where we have 16,000 MK1 and we have 99,000 MK2. Now that is G12 gear, and I'll show you as a player. I can't show you obviously on my account without having to switch over, and that'll be kind of wasteful time-wise. But I'll show you what I do as an endgame player to kind of help me know what to buy here, right? I go into my scavenger, and I keep about an unlimited amount of G12 gear that can convert for Electrum conductors and Zimbital cards. And right now in my account, I have about 600 of each of those things. And when I see those in the store, I don't buy them. I don't need to buy them. I know I don't need Zimbital cards. I know I don't need Electrum conductors. But anytime I have an item for impulse detectors or for Gerda keypads, I try to keep those numbers down somewhere around 300. So that's enough to where if a character comes out that needs them, like a GL or a Conquest character, that I will be able to get those things. But what it also does is it visually signals me in the stores when I see these things around 300 and I see these other things around 600 plus. I know very quick, very visually, very easily, hey, you gotta buy these things, right? You gotta buy my med packs, gotta buy my bayonets, gotta buy my multi-tools. So all of those things allow me to quickly go into those stores and say, what do I need? For this player, we're buying everything. We're just burning that down right now because we do have some gearing needs left. So it does make sense to stay on top of that. I know I already said final thing, but even just looking at our credits and our ship building materials as an end game player, this mod store is invaluable. You can find a lot of really great things in here, especially for ship currency. Right now, I don't see anything too crazy that I like, but I will urge players in the end game, hey, those mod refreshes, they go up to 99. Don't ask me how I know that, but it is worth it to do it a couple times a day if you find yourself not in a position where your crystals are completely destroyed and being accounted for 1 to 1. Now, earlier in the video, I did ask you to think about that 870,000 shard shop currency, right? And we go to our shard shop, you see we got about 3,000 just today. And I've already made purchases of some G12 material already for myself. But just to give you an idea of what this shard shop currency looks like as a player, that 873,000 shard shop currency becomes 1,212 instances of G12 gear that can convert for 720 shard shop currency. So that's 4,850 actual gear. If you are only buying the items that go for 360 here, that is 2,425 instances of 360 shard shop currency G12 gear, or 9,700 gear. At 12 points per, we are talking about, just for the top stuff, the 720 stuff, we are talking about 132 impulse detectors or equivalent, right? That's a big deal. Or you can double that when we are talking about the gear that mixes for 360. That's a big deal for a player to have that available to them. Now, if you are a person who is at the top, maybe you're 15, 16 million, maybe you are on top of this and you're finding that your shard shop currency is already stocking up, and you can see that this player does have 53,000 that's already available to them. Going into that Datacron store for data catches and some of the materials for the newest set, I don't advise it to every player, but if you are in a surplus of that material, I definitely strongly see it as something that is worthwhile for those players to do. Essentially, what I am saying with this video here is that daily maintenance on your account is important. Being able to go in while you're doing dailies, while you're doing your galactic war, and just buying those ships every day. And after you do your fleet, you collect your arena shipment, going into your arena store and buying those shards. It is a daily chore that takes about 30 seconds to a minute total. But if you let it build up to this, what this has happened on this account, you are going to see a huge amount of missing resources, and it takes a long time to correct that. Now, there are a lot of players who hoard on purpose and they go, well, I want to see changes in those stores. We have seen a couple things change in those stores over time, but nothing that is really going to benefit a player that is hoarding. We've seen some shards come to those shops, some changes, but there's always older things to help newer players, not necessarily to help players who have been around the block for a very long time. We can talk about like the get to for where is it, in the guild event store, and we can say, hey man, Egg, like this guy's got 99,000 of get to, and he could be buying fragmented signal data. First of all, he's got 2,800 fragmented signal data. Second of all, I believe that that signal data is honestly a trap for the majority of players and is really not worth buying, especially because it is not the blue signal data, which is a much bigger problem for players. So if you have taken anything from this video, I fully implore you, please make sure that you are burning down those older currencies, especially that squad arena shop, because we do not know what is going to happen with that when Shard Shop becomes defunct and the new era PvP system comes in. CG may decide to leave the store there for a couple months. They may decide to just convert it to some type of material. I very strongly and highly doubt that they will convert it in an advantageous way that makes it worth holding on to. And it is smart for players to make sure that they are always on top of their account. For this account, we talk about, hey, maybe he's only missing 150 impulse detectors and 20 zetas, and that sounds like a lot, but is it a really big deal? That is the difference between winning a GAC battle. That is a difference between your relic delta and going into one battle and you lost it because you needed one more relic level. It happens. I've seen it happen. Those little things can change. It's like the butterfly effect, right? So, nothing else, if nothing else, all I am saying and stressing to you is that if you are a highly engaged player, and you probably are if you are watching me talk about SWGOH in your morning, but if you are a highly engaged player, making sure you are engaging with the game in a smart and reasonable way, especially if you are reaching out to content creators and asking for their help, because I promise you, very, very, very much so, that a lot of players have things that they can do on their own with zero effort at all to improve their own gameplay experience. That said, peace out and have a great rest of your day.